Hello YouTube, it's Charlie in Westeros here, and I am back with you all today for a second theory video in terms of what will happen to a specific house in the book series of Song of Ice and Fire / the TV show Game of Thrones. It's been a while since I made a video like this. I think the last time was when I covered House Baratheon, and that was about 8-9 months ago. So it's been quite a while, but I figured, you know, why not get back into the go of things. So if you have not caught on yet, this video does contain spoilers. So if you have not finished the book series, or if you haven't read the book series, or if you don't want to read the book series but you don't want to have anything spoiled for you, or even if you're just not interested in hearing about any potential theories that could ruin the story for you, I would strongly recommend leaving this video now, because you have been warned. So yeah. When talking about the fate of House Lannister, I think it's first important to address a number of theories that exist out there in terms of the identities of the three Lannister children. And when I say the children, I mean Cersei, Jaime, and Tyrion. I guess I should say adults, not children, since they're all pretty much well grown up in the story. But Tywin's kids, basically. So there are a few theories out there. I know there's one by James Johnson and his mother LaDonna. Oh, and by the way, James Johnson, LaDonna, thanks so much for the shout out in your video, in your most recent video. I really appreciated it. My review today is gonna, or my theory today is gonna, you know, try to mimic, I guess, their style a little bit, but I hope you guys don't take it as me ripping them / you off. Take it more as an homage, I guess. Anyway, they posited a theory in which Jaime and Cersei are in fact the bastard children of Aerys Targaryen and Tywin Lannister's wife. On top of that, there's another theory, I think, by TheLadyKaylah, who's another YouTuber, who proposed that Tyrion is in fact the bastard son of Aerys Targaryen rather than Cersei and Jaime. In sum, it is my belief that all three of these Lannisters are in fact true Lannisters. There's no illegitimacy at play. You know, they're the real deal children of House Lannister and of Tywin Lannister as well. So I know a lot of the theories in which, you know, in which these three individuals are kind of branded as Targaryens usually focus on the idea that, well, Tywin's motivations in terms of doing what he's done, either towards his treatment in terms of his treatment towards Tyrion, or in terms of in terms of his betrayal towards Aerys Targaryen, were in fact motivated by these, you know, this cuckoldry by his wife. I personally feel that, you know, everything that we've found out so far in the story makes perfect sense in order to explain his motivations for what he's done. So yeah, basically my theories all revolve around the idea that, you know, Tyrion, Cersei, and Jaime are in fact true-born heirs of House Lannister, and as such they will be treated as Lannisters in my video. So without further ado, I guess I will get right into it. I tend to use paper when I talk about my theories. I'm really bad at, you know, talking about some of these things off the top of my head. I'm not as good as some of you other YouTubers out there, unfortunately. So if it looks like I'm looking down all the time, just bear with me. But I think it's important I vocalize my thoughts at long last in terms of House Lannister. So I will start off by talking about Cersei Lannister. When talking about the fate of Cersei, I think it's pretty much impossible not to talk about the prophecy Maggie the Frog gave to her when she was young. I'm convinced that this gives us very obvious indications about what will happen to Cersei and her children, and so naturally I must talk about all of them in relationship to this prophecy. The first prediction for Cersei was that she would be queen, and I quote, "Until there comes another, younger and more beautiful, to cast you down and take all that you hold dear," end quote. So with that said, it is my opinion that the queen who I predict will cast down Cersei is going to be in fact Sansa Stark, and I will explain why. Firstly, Maggie did say another queen, or a queen, will cast down Cersei, not the queen. So in sum, a queen who does not necessarily need to be the queen of the Seven Kingdoms. I am almost certain Sansa will end up as the queen of the North, or in the North, in some form or another, As you know, Littlefinger is right now, by the end of book 4, plotting to marry Sansa off to the next successor to the lordship of the Vale. I think his name was Harold Hardine, who potentially will take over the Vale lordship if the young Robert Arryn, that little boy, dies, which seems to be hinted at something that's going to be coming up soon potentially, but who knows? And then Littlefinger intends to reveal Sansa Stark as who she truly is, rather than Elaine Stone, in order to reclaim Winterfell as well as proclaim her queen in the North. At least I think. I do believe that this will be successful, at least for some time, and there are so many clues already set up for this to happen, I think. So as such, she will be a queen, at least in name, and then the die will be cast for a queen younger and more beautiful than Cersei to cast her down, just like the prophecy said. Remember, Cersei is the one who ordered the execution of Sansa's direwolf lady. Cersei equally played Sansa for a fool, pretty much, during Ned's imprisonment, having her write that letter to Robb Stark. And Cersei is basically, for all intents and purposes, responsible for the death of Ned Stark, because she motivated the scenario in which Joffrey was able to take action into his own hands and have Ned executed. And I know it wasn't her who gave the execution order, but she did set up that whole scenario in which, he was supposed to repent, but permitted him to be executed anyway. Couldn't even control her own son, just like Tywin said, if you recall correctly. Anyway, for all practical purposes, Cersei is responsible for almost all of Sansa's misery up to this point in the story, and she's done so much to take away what Sansa holds dear. So I think it would only be poetic justice for Cersei to fall victim to someone she herself has made suffer for so long. I'm only going to make reference to the show now because I think there's like a beautiful image that was used in episode 1 to set up this prophecy. Remember the dinner scene at Winterfell in the first episode? Cersei was speaking to Catelyn Stark, and then she had a servant go and fetch Sansa. Well, when Sansa approaches Cersei, the first thing that Cersei says to her was, and I quote again, "Hello, little dove, but you are beautiful, tall," and so on and so forth. Then she turns to Cat and says, another quote, "Your daughter will do well in the capital. Such a beauty shouldn't stay hidden up here forever." And by this, Cersei has openly acknowledged that Sansa is indeed beautiful, even at such a young age. And I don't think she was saying it as a mere jest. I think, she truly meant it. Already in the books, Sansa is described as increasingly beautiful, as she grows up. But to add to that, she fits the role of the fairy tale princess, of course. And you can kind of see this when she obsesses over all the tales of the knights and the heroes that she likes to talk about, especially in the first few books. I think now she's getting a bit more realistic, but you know what I mean. So when I think of the parallel between Cersei and Sansa, I immediately think about the tale of Snow White. I think it's a pretty clear story that George R.R. Martin has borrowed from, and in order to set up this kind of dualistic, or at least this pair, or just a scenario in general. The Wicked Queen who mistreats Snow White just as Cersei mistreats Sansa, but unlike the Wicked Queen who does know Snow White is the direct threat because of her beauty and is going to replace her as this new beautiful ruler, Cersei is given greater ambiguity, and so she kind of misdirects her worry towards others, such as Marjorie Tyrell in book 4 and 5. Well, mostly book 4 actually. Anyway, once Sansa has been proclaimed Queen of the North, she will, in some function or another, be the one to remove Cersei from King's Landing, or at the very least, I think the fact that Sansa will be proclaimed as Queen of the North will directly motivate or cause Cersei to lose King's Landing, and will be part of the process in causing Cersei to lose all that she holds dear. So that includes power, wealth, and of course her kids. And when I talk about our kids, that brings me to the second part of Maggie's prediction to Cersei. So Maggie predicted that Cersei would have 3 kids, of course, and I quote, according to the prophecy, "Gold shall be their crowns, and gold their shrouds. And when your tears have drowned you, the Valonqar shall wrap his hands about your pale white throat, and choke the life from you." So let's break this down a little bit more. The first half evidently means that all 3 of Cersei's kids will be crowned as either kings or queen at some point in the story. and after this would all die as kings and queens. Remember, gold was their crowns and gold was their shrouds. Shrouds is the cloth that you put over a dead person's face, if I remember correctly. Kind of like the Shroud of Turin, I think it's called. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Never mind that. Yeah, so Joffrey's already died, as we all know. Tommen is currently king, which implies he is next to die, and logistically speaking, Myrcella should die after him, but after she would be proclaimed queen, at least, or crowned queen. For those of you who have read it, I foresee a situation fairly similar to the one that develops in The Princess and the Queen. And if you've read it, you will know exactly what I mean by that, but I will leave a greater comment on that note for my detailed analysis or discussion of The Princess and the Queen novella in a later video. Again, I do feel confident in stating that Tommen will croak first. Now, how will this happen? Well, this is what I foresee. Tyann Sand is the second of the Sand Snakes right now, that is of Oberyn Martell's illegitimate daughters. She's described as treacherous, but appears sweet and pious. In A Dance with Dragons, we learn that Doran Martell is sending her disguised as a Septa to King's Landing in order to befriend the new High Septon. However, I think that she's going to go there with the intentions of her own, or with her own plot in mind. Remember, even though we haven't seen much of her yet, she does want vengeance for her slain father, and is also knowledgeable in poisons just like her father was. Now, these elements do set us up with the expectation that, if she does go to King's Landing with vengeance in mind, and a great knowledge of poisons, then someone certainly must be a target of that. They wouldn't just, there's quite that many details unless there was something to which that could be potentially directed towards, if that makes sense. Along with this fact, her oldest sister, Obara Sand, is said to have vowed to wage war against the Lannisters, and the three oldest Sand Snakes all seem fairly unified in their disdain for the Lannisters. So it wouldn't surprise me if Tyann attempts to kill a Lannister at King's Landing, since, I think all three sisters are united in their one goal of hating the Lannisters. Even if it was just Obara who is, supposedly the one who declared the war. I think they all have, three thoughts, one mind, if that makes sense. Now, here's how I see this coming about in terms of that murder. At this point in the story, there are really only two prominent Lannisters left at King's Landing, like I said, Cersei and Tommen. I predict that by a twist of fate, Littlefinger will somehow be in contact with Tyann Sand, as well as her other sister, Nymeria, who should also be at King's Landing by this point, in order to try and boost. Littlefinger is going to be in contact with this Sand Snake, well, at least one of those two Sand Snakes anyway, in order to try and boost Sansa's position as Queen of the North and diminish any threats from the South, i.e. King's Landing from Cersei. So he will very likely easily convince Tyann Sand to kill Tommen. And the reason I think that it's going to be Tyann who will do the deed is because on the surface she's much less of an obvious threat than her other sister, Nymeria, who is also going to King's Landing to fill a vacant seat on the Small Council. I think it was the Dornish seat on the Small Council. And since Nymeria is a much more visible threat and much more visibly dangerous individual, this will of course alarm Cersei, and Cersei will make sure that this individual is kept at bay. Whereas Tyann, however, seems much sweeter and will have no trouble in potentially deceiving Cersei, especially as she presents herself as a spy. Maybe she'll present herself as a spy for Cersei against the new High Septon. That's just one thought that I think could happen. I also think that once Tyann does, the deed, Cersei will begin to reach a new level of madness, just like King Aerys did. King Aerys Targaryen did a while ago, many years ago. Again, Maggie's predictions said that this new queen would take all that Cersei holds dear. Now, although Joffrey was poisoned apparently through the works of Littlefinger and Lady Olenna, Cersei did blame Tyrion and Sansa at first, or still does actually. But even without this blame, Sansa indirectly had a role in playing in Joffrey's death, since Littlefinger killed Joffrey to benefit Sansa's position, i.e. to get her out of King's Landing to the Eyrie, and then commence that whole plot of having her installed at Winterfell as the new leader of the North, or Princess of the North, or in my opinion, Queen of the North, which would thereby giving Sansa a role indirectly in the killing of Joffrey, again, someone who Sansa held dearly in this case. So therefore, Sansa, according to my theory, will be linked to the deaths of two of Cersei's sons, two sons, of course, whom Cersei holds dearly, and even if she weren't the one who wanted them killed, even if Sansa weren't the one who, you know, directly wanted them dead, she will, her mere existence will play a strong role in having these two characters, will have a strong role in having these two characters killed off. Now, I will be honest, I am less certain as to how Myrcella will perish, since she's still at Dorne right now, and but she will certainly die in the end because of the prophecy Maggie the Frog made. Now, I'm undecided, but after Tommen's death, she will somehow become a victim of circumstance, I think. She will, you know, again, somehow be crowned queen, perhaps only symbolically, and maybe she will somehow be smuggled out of Dorne, I don't know. But either way, she will die because that's what the prediction says. And inadvertently through the workings of someone who will, you know, do it for the benefit of Sansa Stark. Again, Sansa probably won't want her dead, but someone will do it in order to benefit Sansa. Whether it's Littlefinger or somebody else, I think we'll have a better understanding of, you know, how this is going to play out in Book 6, or once Book 6 is released, if it hasn't been done yet. So, you know, worst case, I'm totally wrong about this theory and it's gone nowhere, but, you know, I'll live to fight or vlog another day. Worst case scenario. Anyway, now for the second part of Maggie's second prediction. Again, I quote from the prediction, "When the tears have drowned you, the Valonqar shall wrap his hands about your pale white throat and choke the life from you." Now, of course, Valonqar means younger brother in Valyrian, and Cersei assumes this means Tyrion. However, like many other theorists believe, the Valonqar, I think, is going to be Jaime Lannister, and, you know, this seems pretty clear to me. I foresee that towards the end of Cersei's tale, she's going to, like I said, go on some mad King Aerys type of crazy. Now, how Jaime's going to end up killing his sister, I feel, will be closely tied into what is currently occurring with Brienne. Brienne went to find Jaime in Book 5 under the pretext that the Hound had found Sansa and is threatening to kill her if he doesn't go with them, or if he doesn't go with her alone. Now, we do know that this seems to be a trap of some kind. I suspect that somehow Brienne convinced Lady Stoneheart to let her bring Jaime Lannister to her. But another twist of fate, Lady Stoneheart is probably going to somehow avoid killing Jaime, obviously by keeping him alive in order to have him kill Cersei. Now, already Jaime has quested Brienne to find and save Sansa Stark and in order to fulfill his promise to Catelyn Stark. So in that sense, Cersei has already lost Jaime to Sansa, you know, i.e. the younger, more beautiful queen has captured Jaime by having him rescue her, as opposed to fight for Sansa, or as opposed to him fighting for Cersei at this point. He no longer fights for Cersei, you know, but for Sansa's freedom, and somehow he will come to prove this by eventually killing Cersei. I feel that he will be forced to honor his word to Lady Stoneheart by either killing Cersei or being killed himself, or, you know, something of that sort will occur. But I pretty much know that he will kill Cersei in this twist of events. I'm certain he will have a lot of inner turmoil as well throughout this, but I do believe that once he finds a maddened, you know, power-hungry, violent, crazy Cersei, you know, who's pretty much lost everything she holds dear, and, you know, perhaps in a fit of rage does something so reprehensible or horrible that, you know, he won't feel guilty at all at ridding the world of his once beloved sister, just like he did King Aerys so many years before. Now, after losing King's Landing, I foresee Cersei seeking refuge, looking for some help, and this is how I think she'll likely seek out her brother, and this is how I think Lady Stoneheart will find her. You know, knowing this, Lady Stoneheart will ensure that they find each other, or that Cersei will go to Jaime while Lady Stoneheart has him, and then this, I do think that she will die at Jaime's hands. But I do also believe that this specifically will all spell the beginning of the end for Jaime Lannister. Now, for the last two remaining Lannisters of greater significance, so Tyrion and Jaime, their fates in my eyes still seem slightly fuzzy. Jaime, I do foresee dying in some way. I don't think that the story will end with him still alive, but I do think he will meet his end in a more self-sacrificial way to some extent. Truly, Tyrion is the only one I can foresee making it through the whole story of A Song of Ice and Fire, at least in terms of the main storyline itself, alive. There are a number of other less significant Lannisters I know, like like Gemma Lannister or Lance Lannister, and to be honest, I haven't really given much thought to them in terms of what specifically will happen to them. But either way, I'm fairly confident that Tyrion will inherit Casterly Rock and therefore will be given the seat of House Lannister in the end. Again, the more detailed part of my theories on the Lannisters kind of ends there. So, in summary, out of all the main Lannisters, I predict Tyrion to be the only one who will make it out alive. That is at least as far as I've gotten in terms of my own thoughts for House Lannister and their fate in A Song of Ice and Fire. If I do make new discoveries, though, I will definitely make a part 2 video for this. I wish I could have more to say on that matter, but this is a bit of a new step in terms of how I do my prediction videos. I was kind of inspired by James Johnson, actually, and LaDonna in terms of how they do their videos. Again, I'm not trying to rip them off, but I love how they go through so much detail and depth in terms of their own analysis. I, however, don't feel quite as confident in making quite as many statements or in-depth predictions as they do. But the ones I do feel fairly confident about, I will state, just like I have in this video. So, yeah, that's pretty much all for now. I do hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, please do not hesitate to subscribe. So, yeah, thanks, take care, and I'll be back with you all, or back to you all with more videos soon. Peace.